So yeah, mate, I appreciate you taking the time on a Saturday.
Yeah, nice.
You had a busy week. What have you been up to?
Yeah, well, so started the new job from this is the end of my second week. First week was like, just getting in, getting set up, getting things like laptops and a little bit showing around how things work. And then the second week I was sent away to Jaguar Land Rover in Birmingham, and
Oh yeah,
that was helping commission a new system. It's not finished yet, but was commissioning some drives for roller beds and checking inputs and outputs for PLCs. Um, so I went down. That was really good because that's what I was used to. So it's a lot of reading drawings, checking over. So what the Sparks have done, you firing up drives and stuff and checking they've wired it right. That was something a little bit different because coming from maintenance over into the controls world where you're actually installing, realize that in maintenance, if something breaks down, you know that it was wired right once and it was working
yeah,
once. However, like you touched on in the foundation course, the designers aren't always right at it. So you can find little problems like that. And you can also have problems where maybe someone who's run the cables in and maybe misread the drawings, or I had an issue where they'd actually linked a few of these drives together, but never actually put in the supply for the first one, so none of them came on. Um,
right,
so
yeah,
there's a lot of beds, so it's like it's easily done kind of thing. And you might be missing labels for stuff, so it's actually you do really need to understand the hardware like the back of your hand when you're doing this kind of commissioning stuff because that'll probably throw people that was in the
yeah.
maintenance world originally. So it's cool stuff to pick up on, and it's good to see how things are done from scratch. That it is like it is a nice change. It's cool. The end of this second week, they've just started me off with my own like software project. So yesterday
Oh, cool.
um, I was sat in the Halewood site with one of the software engineers, um, and they've just set me up on like the virtual software, so I can actually look at some. It's an air handling unit that I'm doing. I think there's four of them. Three of them have
Yeah,
already been programmed, and I think the first one's been commissioned, and like the two and three are the panels are in, the program's done, but it's not actually been commissioned yet. Um, Number four, it's same system, but like less fans and stuff in it. So it needs modifying. So I've been given the task to modify a software design that a software engineer's done. So that's like my first like step into the software world now. So they're kind of he's like he said to me like it's a real world like project. You need to do it. And he's like, but don't be stressing about anything. The software side, he's like, I've actually done it already. So if anything goes wrong, there's no stress on this first project. He's like, this is you need to try and like figure it out. He spent a day teaching me stuff on like Alan Bradley and Studio 5000 and the software side. So I'm doing my own research a bit today, this weekend over the bank holiday. Um, Monday next week, I'm going to go in, try and hit it hard, and points where I get stuck, he's there like on hand to try and like help me through it. Um, so that's like my first job in software kind of thing, which is it's cool. Like it is a bit daunting when you first get into it, but
Yeah.
it's what I came for. So I'm excited about it. I'm not stressed. I'm just trying to do my own work. So far that's what I've experienced so far from my first week or the first 2 weeks I've had at the new job.
Well, he sounds like a decent guy. This guy that you're working with, like he's not putting pressure on you. He's just letting you learn the
Yeah.
ropes, and yeah, almost like a mock project.
Yeah, the company's been brilliant to be fair. I think I get the vibe that because everyone is so skilled in what they do, they're not like you do get knowledge hoarders and like from
Hmm.
my experience, like you can get people that if they know something they don't really want to share it with you. Where I've gone, all the guys that I spoke to that are software engineers, they either like came in from uni or they was an ex-maintenance engineer and they've moved over. They've hired they've hired younger people and they've tried to like upskill them. And now a lot of the guys that have been there like 4 or 5 years who came in with little to even no knowledge now, they're like top level software engineers, designing
Yeah.
designing things from scratch. So for me, it's promising to see that
That's great.
you can have, as long as you've got good skills. Like I can come in and be of hand, like of use straight away. Um, but it's nice to see that having them skills is like because they've told me it helps if you have the hardware knowledge and stuff like that.
Yeah,
It helps
exactly, mate.
them. Yeah, because I'll say stuff like how things are wired in the field compared to how they would maybe be designed. You have to have that kind of understanding. Instead,
Hmm.
like somebody who doesn't have that understanding, little things might throw them. So a lot of the stuff so far has been it's been good. It's challenging, but I think I'm in the right company to get where I want to go in the future. Like it's promising.
Yeah, it's fantastic, mate. So, what were you like before like joining us? And how long ago was it that you joined us? Can you remember?
Um, I think it was a few months.
A few months ago, wasn't it?
Probably maybe coming up to 2 months, maybe I think.
Yeah. And what were you doing then before joining us? You were maintenance, were you?
Yeah, so I've always worked in like food production companies. I did an apprenticeship in multi-skilled maintenance. So I was like trained electrically, mechanically, in like fluid power, pneumatics, hydraulics, could fabricate, weld. So you're kind of like
Yeah.
a jack of all trades really, but like a master of none. And in that, um, we also did courses like on PLCs and stuff. But as far as you would go is maybe plug in and find out if there's a fault on the machine. Like try and see what inputs you needed, why it's not working, like what's holding it off, like fix it that way. In terms of like design something from scratch, you'd never be able to do it. So I wanted, I always enjoyed the electrical side more, and even like designing and like panel building as well, because I can do that at this new job, to building panels from scratch. So I decided to, obviously, I contacted you. I was looking about like what the best routes for me into controls was. Did this course at the same time. I was just applying for trainee controls engineer jobs, even jobs that I probably wasn't qualified or experienced enough to do. Um, and even some jobs that was multi-skilled maintenance, but with a view to maybe do an advanced apprenticeship in controls
Yeah.
alongside. So I actually got offered that at a place, and I got offered this trainee controls job. But I decided, I think, if you want to be very good at what you do, for me, I think you can't really beat people that are doing design and installs from complete scratch. So I decided to just take the jump and do the trainee controls position. And to be honest, I'm 2 weeks in. I don't think I'll ever look back. To be honest, so it's really good.
So your goal then, you were doing maintenance, you preferred like the electrical stuff, the control stuff. So your goal was to ultimately become a controls engineer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I wanted to
But what
be better at the software design side. I wanted to be able to understand it better, understand how the hardware links with it, how things are like
yeah.
designed like safely and stuff like that. I wanted to be
What
able to have that skill.
why did you want to do that and like progress to becoming controls engineer?
I just think it's for me. I think personally, it's something that I was just naturally interested in, and then I was also as an engineer, you might have to work shifts as well. And I didn't really. I think if you become really skilled in control, it's something that I like doing. Gives me complete freedom. I think a lot of people that are in controls that I've spoken to and worked with in the past, they kind of like they're trusted to like manage their own time. They're like because they're so skilled in what they're doing, it's almost like from my point of view as a maintenance engineer, it was almost like I don't know, I don't know how to get that skill. If you get me, it's hard to get into unless you was a controls engineer. So I just liked the balance of it. And then as I was doing it at college as an apprentice, I enjoyed just like doing little designs and stuff. And you can build a panel, but if you're building a panel and you've got your PLC, if you can't program that PLC, your panel can't really do anything. Um, so I just wanted to have all the skills basically. And that was the last one. It's something now that like I think for the long term into my future, that's something that I'll enjoy doing.
What were you not enjoying perhaps as a maintenance engineer? Like you mentioned shift work and stuff. Like was
Yeah.
there?
It was
Was there anything else?
yeah, the shift work, and I would probably say that sometimes the type of jobs you would get, like I think sometimes like the better you get or the more you progress. Like you've always got things to learn, but sometimes the jobs I would get, if it was like someone's like smashed an e-stop or something, or someone's bringing me something that they, I don't know, they've damaged or destroyed, like it's not really challenging me. Like it's just like mundane, boring jobs that I don't really want to do. The only time that I would be like excited to go and do a job and want to do it and like, get stuck into it was like the technical jobs, like stuff that
Yeah,
people have been on and they can't fix or they can't figure it out, or there's a big electrical problem and like it's like actually challenging you. Um,
yeah,
that's why I was like, if I can go and do this job, like I've just said, the commissioning side, like straight away, you're having technical challenges that you need to be on top of your game with, and you're helping with people, and you like technical support of them. That's a job where
yeah.
I'll go in every day and I'll be like, right, I'm happy doing this. I don't want to be going swapping an e-stop that someone smashed off with a trolley or something like that because that's not challenging you, is it? So that's probably another a big reason for me. I'm just working with people that are just like the best of the best in what they do.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And yeah, are also interested and passionate
yeah,
about what they do. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
What what's kind of like the big goal for you? Where it's like, I don't know, in like 3 years, 5 years time, like where do you see yourself being? Where do you want to get
Um,
to?
I've always wanted working for myself. Obviously, this course, it's one of the good parts about this course is at the end, like the business and is it the career specialist? They like that's a little bit of a part of the reason why I started um, posting on Instagram and things like that. Because you
Yeah.
mentioned about potentially getting yourself out there and how you get clients and stuff like that. It's something that I wasn't really comfortable with, so I was like started posting to get more comfortable, if you get me, before I move
Yeah.
on to maybe LinkedIn in the future. But yeah, I'd definitely say working for myself potentially in the future, or just having. I don't know how this job is going to turn out at the minute, and I might be. A lot of the people there seem to stay there, be really happy, and you know,
Mm.
time wise, they manage their own time. They're trusted. Financially, they're
Yeah.
rewarded for the skills that they have. Nobody can get to a position that almost like they can talk the talk, but they can't walk the walk. If you get me, from my
Yeah.
experience, so in some jobs you can get there by being good at talking rather than having the skills. So at the minute, I've either working for myself or just depending on how this kind of job and what opportunities come, just being very skilled in what I'm
Yeah.
doing, but having a job where I can manage my own time and be trusted and be in a
Yeah.
position of trust.
Trusted.
Yeah,
That I just made a note of that. Like that's so massive to just as someone who's employed
mm,
to actually know that you're trusted by your superiors to just
yeah,
get on with things. Like that's one step towards being self-employed, having your own business because you actually have freedom and you're
yeah.
trusted just to get on with it. Like that, if you found that in a place, that's huge,
Yeah,
you know.
that was one of the main differences swapping over. So I'm used to being in at a very early time, maybe clocking in 10 minutes before I need to be on the shop floor. I need to be on the shop floor like 5 or 10 minutes to do a handover. When you come out, if you ever leave the site, you need to clock out, clock back in.
Yeah,
At the end of your shift, clock out. Like it's very regimented, and
yeah,
you you're getting a lot of pressure from people that are panicking because they don't understand the problem or like they've I don't know something's been bodged and you're trying to do your best to fix it and stuff like that and people don't understand. In this, nearly everyone you work with like they know what they're doing. You can't pull the wool over their eyes. Like they're very skilled
yeah,
and also I don't have a clocking machine anymore. It's very like
yeah,
manage yourself, and they can tell if you took the mick or you're blagging your job or whatever. Well, they can tell because the work isn't done or there's things missing. Like they don't need the time sheet. They trust you. Like, or if something's not, if you can't get power onto this panel today, and you're not really much use. Like maybe go home and do some admin stuff or like do some like making sure like everything's got labels on that kind of thing. But you don't stay all day. But maybe the day after you've got power on, you're busy checking things. Well, you might actually have a longer day then, but they'll trust
yeah,
you. They're not checking.
yeah,
Well, you only did 5 hours this day. whatever another day that you trusted, like so.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
What also what you mentioned about the social media stuff, like this is so, early days you might think, oh, it's going to take a long time to sort of get anything back from like putting in the time and effort to do these sort of things. But what it is doing like these things that you're doing on social media, like you set up that Instagram page, Weiro_engineering, is that it?
that's right. Yeah,
Yeah. And it's social proof. And this is huge, which people just like don't think about. Like later down the line, whether you're landing a new position, like you're advancing your career, or you're talking to clients, like you've actually got social proof. What you're talking about, you've actually done, and there's the
yeah,
evidence.
yeah,
And
yeah, 100%.
that just builds so much trust with, employers, clients. So even if like you don't directly get, I don't know, like leads or clients from Instagram, it's more of a like portfolio that you've got,
Mm.
that you can show people like I've done all of this.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah.
What what was the thing blocking you or preventing you from, back when you joined us, that was like, what was stopping you from just going straight in as a controls engineer? Like, I think you mentioned that you applied for a couple of roles. Like, was there something missing that was stopping you sort of making that jump?
Yeah, well, probably just like confidence really, and then I was always confident in like my ability as a maintenance engineer, what I did. I was confident in that, and even some of the stuff that you was teaching, I was like some of it was like, right, I know this, but then there was little bits that I was like, well, that's good. I didn't know that, or I've learned something, or whatever. Or even some parts was like confirming things that I thought, and I was like, all right, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
definitely right. Um, so the actual hardware side, I was like, right, I'm confident that it was the software side, but then so when I was signing up, I was having a chat with you, and you said, well, you'll nail the software side, and then sorry, the hardware side, and then at the end of the course, like you mentioned about pointing me in the right direction of what software that you should focus on or learn, depending on what job you're going into. Um, that was probably the bit that I was a bit nervous about. But I've realised now, having you can actually get the job. So like these training positions are, if you understand the hardware side, like hardware side, 100%, you're actually in so much more of a better position than say like someone that's maybe coming out of university or something like that.
Yeah.
Because maybe like they might know it, but it's actually different when you stood there in front of a panel and you actually have to do these changes. Because if you've
Mm.
never done it before, it is yeah, you might know what it's meant to do and what it looks like, but actually getting your hands in and touching stuff like it's a little bit of a
Yeah.
different game. Um, so it was kind of like I came into this and I realized like, well, actually, I actually know that really well. And then I did work through some of the course, learn a few more things, and then I was like, I'm just gonna go for it. And if I find a place that can teach the software side, and I don't have to go and pay for the courses myself, then I've kind of got everything that I need there in the future. And the trainee position, like I actually got, so this was a something that like proves what I'm saying. So the position that I applied for, it was actually the salary range that they applied for was actually a lot lower than what I was like really comfortable taking. Went
Yeah.
in, I had the interview, and then they offered me the job at higher salary than what it was advertised. And when
Oh,
I
nice.
I rang them up and said, can I come in and just ask a few questions and to make sure it's 100% what I want, and so I'm not wasting my time, I'm not wasting their time.
Yeah.
Um, and I asked them about that. I was like, what was the decision about salary like being higher? Because it actually, I've still took a drop for a few years, and the pay is the more the more say you can take on as a project, the more you'll get paid. So
Yeah.
you get paid for
Yeah.
like what skills you've got.
It's
Um,
what happened to me. I started as a
yeah,
controls engineer, and it went up the more
yeah,
responsibilities I could. Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, mate, go on.
So I was like, right, I'm completely happy with that. And I asked them about what was the decision like? What was the factor in giving me a salary that was higher than what was actually advertised? Because it actually wasn't that much of like a big drop for me for what they offered. And they said
Yeah,
it's all down to like the experience and stuff that you've got. So they said they interviewed a lot of guys from university that was like qualified on paper to a higher level than what I had on quals. Um, it was like we can like from speaking to me versus like some other like uni grads. Um, it was just like the actual hands-on experience really that it's just
yeah,
night and day. You've either got it or you've not. Like that's the thing. And then
yeah.
so I'd say that's something that this course is like probably teaches well. Like it's showing you the scenario bits are good. Um,
Hmm.
because you actually have to think then, because it's one thing telling people how something works, but until something goes wrong, your head will start spinning if you've never been there before. So um, that kind of proves it a little bit.
And just going back to sort of like early days in the program, or just perhaps before you joined, you mentioned that it was kind of a confidence thing, not having full clarity in some things that perhaps you didn't know, but then having that clarity on the things that you think you thought you knew.
Yeah,
Like how was that having an impact on you back then? Like not having that clarity, that confidence.
um, I'd always I'd always like have a go and like so my mindset is like you either know or you don't kind of thing. Like, but I don't think you should be scared of trying. Like, I'm not bothered about making a mistake. When I was an apprentice, I made loads of mistakes. Like even when I was qualified, you make mistakes, but you just have
Yeah.
to learn from them. That's how you end up good. If you've not made a mistake, there's not a chance that you'll be any good. Um, so I'm not sure. I'd say just confirming the things that I thought was right was good, and then I actually built on some knowledge that I had, and then the last thing was the last thing that was scary for me was the software part. But like you said, if you go in and you've got that ability to learn all the hardware side, the software side, they've assured me is well a lot easier to teach, and you'll pick it up pretty fast. Like it's nothing different. Like you just need
Why
to
do you think that is? Because that's key, man. That's key. Why do you think th even they say, if you've got the hardware, that the software's relatively straightforward?
I'd probably say you've got the ability to learn. So if you've already picked up the hardware side, they've watched me fix faults that they've had really quickly. I know exactly what I'm doing. So it shows that whether I've got a drawing or not, I know in my head how it
Yeah,
works.
yeah.
So if you've got that ability to have it in your head, or you understand, or you can't, like it shows that well, number one, you're clever enough to pick up the software side, and then also it's not that much like the software side is just like another drawing. It's just designing like your rungs and your logic. It's just like another electrical circuit, really. It's
Yeah.
closing this contact. It's bringing this one on. It's bringing this coil on. Like it's nothing different. It's just getting used to how it's actually done. So it's not something that they can't teach to someone that has got that ability already in a way.
Mate, that's spot on. Like I've never thought of it like that. Like, and you're talking about ladder logic specifically here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like it is, it's very much like a schematic. Like the schematics we've got in the
Exactly. It's just
program, yeah, you just flip it that way, isn't it?
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
that's yeah, so if you kind of understand, like you were talking about being able to think like a controls engineer, which those scenarios, that's kind of what those scenarios are designed for, is to teach you how to think like a controls engineer. Because then you're getting into the schematics, you're getting into the designs and modifications of those designs. So yeah, when you get to that layer, that final kind of layer, icing on the cake,
yeah,
it's just the same as what you've already been doing.
yeah, yeah,
Um, so what? Because what's awesome, man, is like you didn't even like you just finished the first foundation bit within the program before getting
yeah.
into panel building, testing, fault finding, the design, the specifying, the documentation, and then like there's the career and the business stuff. Like you just done the foundations, then you've just gone bang, landed a position as a controls
What
engineer.
what that actually is so that I've always the way that I know how I learn. So the foundation stuff is the stuff that I've ticked, that I've done, but that's because I've made notes on it as well. The other
Okay.
stuff, I have started playing bits and jumped to stuff, but because I haven't made notes on it, I won't tick it all off if you get me. So
Okay.
I've
Yeah.
not I've only started like I've done like a little put a little bit on design, a little bit on panel, and then I jumped onto some of the even some of the stuff on YouTube. I think you have like I've watched that before that are like similar videos. So I've like jumped in between just because I've been so busy trying to pick up some new software stuff as well. So I've kind of been juggling a few
Yeah.
things. Um, so yeah, I've done. So yeah, I've smashed the foundation course and made like loads of notes, like Word documents, drawings, all sorts on it. Um, just because I think it was good to see because I'm not from BMS world and some of the stuff on that like the components and the tech manuals like it's actually good for me to read because every now and then in maintenance you'd have to go into like a boiler room or a plant room or something like that and fix stuff. And actually we had we had a similar thing where I just left like a thermal oil heater and there was laid out like similar to like a BMS kind of panel. And I actually fixed it was like a pump that was on overload, but I just read the drawings pretty quick. Um, the overload had tripped, so they hadn't opened the valve, so it was pumping
Right.
against a dead end,
Yeah.
so it was
Right.
just
Yeah.
overloading.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was good to just like have that. Like I could read the drawings, like, but it's good because some of the other stuff that was on that and like the pressure switches, like I was like, oh, I've seen them on the foundation course. Even starting this new job, they had the CTs. So I
Yeah.
was like, oh,
Yeah.
well, I know how they work, I know how they're wired and stuff like that. Are they digital? Are they analog? Do you know what I mean? Things like that.
Yeah.
So
No.
like little bits, like I've actually picked up since doing the foundation course, and then I've started just touching on little bits of like the business or the career specialist and the panel and stuff like that. But I've not made the notes yet.
Exactly. But you've done like just the foundations and you've already made that jump. So,
Yeah.
I, what was it? Was it just getting that clarity, that confidence, like going through that first phase, that was enough to just like propel you to this
Um, to, to,
next stage in your career?
to be honest, the, it was from when I started speaking to you about joining the course. I was like, this is something that I actually want in. I want to, so I wanted the course and learn and have all the aspect that the course teaches, like almost like there's like one, I almost had like two stages in my head. So I wanted that to be nailed down, and then the software was like another stage of it. And then, so what I'd actually decided was do this course. Um, and at the same time as speaking to you and because something that you said to me in the when I was actually speaking to you about doing the course and joining you said something about how much did you learn at college as an
Mm,
apprentice
mm.
and it was like, would you? I think I was asking you about what routes would you go down, to get into this, to get into the control side, and then I'd mentioned like, should I do this course? Should I just be looking at maybe like university stuff and going to uni, retraining and stuff like that? And I think you mentioned like, how much did you learn at college? And I was like, well, yeah, next to nothing. It was, I learned a couple of basics, made my own notes, and then it was all just struggling through at work and just getting hands-on
Yeah.
experience. So it was that conversation, deciding to have this is a good thing to have and understand all of it. Have that almost like as stage one of the process, and then stage two was going to be the software. So I just decided I'm just going to jump at a job and just try and see if I can get in, and that'll deal with the software at the end. So it was
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
it was all just like a big thing that I put together, and I was like, it was that comment that you made about how much did you learn. I was like, yeah, I just need to jump. So from that, I was like, start the course, and I was like, I'm just going to jump at putting myself in the deep end somewhere if I can. Um, and it kind of lined up that I started the course, and like 2 weeks later, they offered me the job. So it was just like I was doing it at the same time, if you will.
Yeah.
It was a bit
What
hectic to be honest, but that's just how it worked out. You just have to take your chances.
so what elements within the program would, and I know you've jumped about a bit, but you've done the first bit. So
Yeah.
what part of the first bit would you say sort of helped you the most with where you're at now?
Where am I now? Not too.
Or just generally, like what part of the first sort of specialist foundations has helped you the most? Like what sticks out for you?
It
within
was
that?
more just a to see how you got maybe a project that it's a real world project that you've been given from somebody else. So it was nice to just see how you like kind of like because you could kind of I could kind of tell you like broke it down and then how you'd reach. So like now at this project, like I'm quite comfortable thinking um, if I need to I don't know design software, there might be a component that I actually need to get like a data sheet and read the manual for and stuff like that. It's kind of like help start the structure in my head how things are done from scratch if you get me. So that was a big help, and then it was generally just going through and just having. I probably can't put my finger on it exactly, but it was just building on knowledge that I had. Um, and that was it. Like I feel like don't know exactly how it's helped, but it's I just build knowledge so it helps me somewhere along the
Yeah,
line, or reading something, or reading a drawing, or like
yeah,
there is things that I've come across where it's like, well, I've seen that here in this drawing that you've done, or in this course or whatever, and it does help. It's just it's probably like so much stuff that you're taking in. It's
yeah,
hard to pinpoint exactly this one
yeah.
thing is helping me here. Like
Yeah, I get it, man. What advice would you give to like anyone that's like maintenance engineer, service engineer, similar to you? What advice would you give them to like, and they want to do similar to what you've done, progress into
mm,
becoming a controls engineer? What advice would you give them? Like with similar
it's
goals to you?
someone else just DM me on Instagram
Oh,
from my
really?
page. Yeah, asking like he's like
Awesome.
I was in the same position. Like yeah, the advice I said to him I was like I don't know all the best routes. I don't know exactly what the best route is for everyone all the routes to get into it. But like I said, from my experience, like I've decided it's something that I want to do, and it's definitely something that I want to do. Put myself out there, obviously, spoke to people in the know, so that's
Yeah.
whether that's you, people I know from work that are in that industry. Um, and then I just kind of put in a little bit of a plan, like I said, I just kind of switched and thought, how how can I realistically get myself into this job? And it was just taking risks a little bit. Like I'm just gonna
Mm.
apply for this and see what happens. Like apply for maybe a fully qualified role, and if I don't get it, well, at least I've gone in and I know what questions they ask, what kind of things that I
Yeah.
need to learn. You
Yes.
know what I mean? Like
Exactly, mate. Yeah.
the worst you can get is a no. Do you know what I
Is
mean?
a
Like
no. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but you can learn from it, and yeah, you might be a bit
Yeah.
uncomfortable, and you might look a bit daft or whatever, but. Do you know what I mean? Like you have to make them mistakes, don't you? Like at the end of the day, I know if I keep doing that enough, it might be uncomfortable doing it, but I'll end up where I want to be eventually. Even like messaging people on LinkedIn that are active in that kind of world, like, is there any opportunities? Can you give me any advice? And so I mean, like this was a good thing. Like this was kind of like a jump for me. Investing in myself. I just thought I'm going to invest in myself. Sure that I'm because that was one thing where I got offered a job. At Warburton's it was. They offered me a job to come on as a maintenance engineer, but look at becoming like a an advanced apprentice in the future. So along with my job, I'll go and do university, if you will. Um, and they've got a few people there that have done the same route and they're controls engineers now. Um, but I just say sometimes it's dangling the carrot, and it might never actually
Yeah.
be there,
Yeah.
which is why I decided against it. However, one thing that they jumped at was seeing that I'd invested in myself in this course, so it shows your intentions. Like that's a big step if you're going to invest yourself. And
Oh, sorry, explain that. So the Warburton's place that you turned
yeah,
down, they saw that you'd invested in yourself in a program.
what? Oh, sorry. What I actually did was so on my CV I put the skills that I have, and I put it very like basic, just to show like what skills I have. And I had things like my qualifications and some courses that I've been on, or things that I put in. And one thing I put on that was the control system specialist course at the automation, and I put what the course was about, and I put self-funded. So they asked,
Awesome.
on the CV, it looks like an interesting thing. They're like, oh, what's that? Um,
Right.
so then I
Okay.
explained what it was, explained what I
Yeah.
was doing, explained that I'd funded it myself because I want to get into that in the future. And they was
Yeah.
like, loving it because they're kind of saying, well, that was one thing that they wrote it down. I said, no, they make notes across the table.
Yeah.
That was I seen them straight away. As soon as I said it, they put like invested so much money into the course yourself,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they put like exclamations next to it, and then so you can quite clearly see that whoever it is, if I was interviewing somebody doing that, it's like, well, he's trying to get like he's investing in himself. He wants to be
Yeah.
better. He's not
Yeah.
coming like just for the money. He wants to get where he wants to get, kind of thing. So that was like it's a big selling point. You know what I mean? So
Mate, that's massive. And I
yeah,
might have to steal that to recommend that to other guys within the
yeah,
program. Because
yeah,
I've always said, oh, like, oh, the people that I speak to, oh, do you get a certificate at the end of it? It's
yeah,
like we can make you a certificate if you want. Like we just made a guy a certificate. Like,
yeah,
but it's meaningless. Like
yeah,
what actually matters is what you know. Can you communicate that and like give those
yeah,
people trust that you are the right guy and you
yeah,
care? So like another certificate, as long as you've got like the stuff that you've got, like the engineering background or electrical background, like that's enough. It's then the controls is just the knowledge, the understanding on top of that.
yeah,
But we can give you a certificate if you want. So I've always kind of joked a little bit that it's not
yeah.
that important.
Well,
But
what
that's
yeah. Sorry,
God, mate.
what I did was I used it because I always believe, I think if you know what you're talking about and you're skilled and you're confident in your own abilities, you just need that foot in the door. I always think if I can get my foot in the door and I can get in an interview room, can show them my skills and because in there, but I got the foot in the door and the trade tested me. So they tested me on reading electrical schematics,
Yeah,
drawings.
yeah,
If this happened, if you had a fault on this circuit, how would you minimize the time? And I'm giving
yeah.
them clear things that I would do in front of me. So I've used the course as a part of my CV to
Right.
make it stand out, get myself in the door, but then I've also backed it up. So when they trade
Yeah,
tested me and asked these questions, well, I've smashed it because I know what I'm talking about. But maybe if I didn't have that on my CV, I might not have got the foot in the door, so I wouldn't have been in the room to
right.
impress them. If you get me, that's what I kind
Yeah.
of used it for a little bit.
That's awesome, mate. I love it. And yeah, like you touched on, if an employer, hiring manager, business owner like sees this, questions it, they understand sort of the level of investment that you put into it, financially, time,
Yeah,
like someone that actually cares about them, their career, their development, willing to do that,
yeah,
because let's be honest, mate, like 95, 99% of people, they don't care enough, and that's
yeah,
why they just stay mediocre.
yeah,
But it's like that 1% of people that actually willing to invest in
yeah,
themselves, that will just set you apart from like
yeah.
all the other people that you're interviewing against.
Yeah. Well, I also think it
Massive.
shows as well the mentality of the person. So I think what
Yeah.
we actually do, if you're not in it, people think it's like rocket science. It's really hard. It's you have to be very clever to do it. You actually don't. It's the
Mate,
complex
if I
things.
can do it, if I can do
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
fucking anyone can do
The
it.
complex problems are not like they're not actually normally that complex. It's a lot of basic things that you understand that are all in a line basically, and you're just working
Yeah,
through them. That's all it
yeah,
is. And
yeah. It's like a
maybe
process of elimination, isn't it,
yeah,
really?
it's just checking. But a lot of it is like very very basic, and you just have to. But because maybe a lot of them, people will think, well,
Yeah,
it's you're clever doing it. Well, you're actually not. You just understand the basics really well.
yeah,
But it shows as well. So what I think is if you're willing to do that and be the kind of person that will invest your own time, be hardworking, and has got that mentality, well, a lot of these big companies can work with them kind of people and get them to the level they need to be anyway, just because of their drive to learn, if you will. And I think that's a
yeah,
little bit what the core, if you've got that course on your CV and you can mention about that, that's something that they pick up on. He's got the right
yeah.
mentality. That's it.
I love it, mate. I'm gonna steal that. I'm gonna
Yeah.
that's some really good advice and guidance for some of the other guys coming through. So I'll make
Mm.
sure I'll mention that. Yeah, and just sort of finishing off, it's as you mentioned in the interview, it's like the first thing they are going to do to assess where you're at is run like little scenarios, test your technical ability, give you questions, because then as someone who's, up here been in the industry for a while, is a controls engineer, they want to know where you're at in terms of a
yeah,
controls engineer, or you're so they're going to straight away run these scenarios
yeah,
to test where you're at. So your technical understanding, you know, if you want to increase your chances, and what we just talked about, investing in a program like financially, time is great, but you do, like you mentioned, have to back it up with actual
yeah,
your technical understanding. And then if you've
yeah,
got that, even if it's just the foundation level, like, and they can see how you think through situations, scenarios, how
yeah,
you break things down. Why? This is the key thing. It's like why they want to see and understand why you're thinking through it this way,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
how you're breaking
yeah.
it down. Is I saw I went on a bit of a rant there, but
No,
is that some of the like how did the interview process go with you in this one that you've just landed?
yeah. So, well, the one I've landed now, the
Yeah.
one I've landed now didn't actually trade test.
Oh,
It was
did
all out.
they?
It, yeah, yeah. So, not there's a lot of places that don't, from my experience, and there's a lot of places that do. I don't know what the I would if I had my own company, I'd trade test everybody. That's personally what I would do. This new place, I don't
Yeah.
know. Sometimes the questions that they ask you, sometimes if you even know or you don't, sometimes. So they can, if you're a skilled person, I think you can. If I was into say if you was interviewing me for a job on maybe like in the BMS world and you was taking on an employee for you, I'm pretty sure that you'd be able to pull apart people that know what they're talking about or don't. So I think the company that I go to, because they're very skilled in what they do, and the people that are like project managers are like ex-electricians or ex-software guys or whatever, they can pick apart whether you know what you're talking about sometimes or whether you don't and ask you certain things. So I think some places like that rely on that. Other places do that as well, but then they also back it up with like a practical assessment or reading
Right, yeah.
drawings assessment or something like that, which is what I had. I had a few scenario questions like mechanical questions and stuff. And then I had also well, I actually said like I'm more competent electrically, and they said, well, here's your electrical test kind of thing. So let's see if you're talking
Yeah.
the talk or not, basically
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
slid me over a drawing. It was all about reading drawings, navigating it. What is this drawing? Um, this I don't know. This relay uh, contact. What page would you be able to find it on? How would you
Mm.
navigate the drawing? And obviously, you're looking at the wire numbers for on the actual contacts and stuff like that. So they're just checking that and backing up your interview talk and skill in a way. But then
Oh,
obviously
so it's a two-part thing with this one, and it was like the initial interview and then like the second one where they're doing this practical scenario stuff.
No, they did it. Warburton's did it all in one. Did it
Oh, okay, okay.
all in one interview. It was like they ask you questions. If you're good at them and you get through them, they'll probably slide you the actual.
Mm.
I had a mate who got another job and he said he never got asked the electrical questions. He all just got all mechanical questions. So I don't know if they have a set route or they swap it up for different people. But
Yeah, it might be different on the interview, perhaps.
yeah,
Well, mate, like I'm really excited. Like, so this is like the first step, man. But
yeah,
like I'm excited to see sort of, well, obviously keep us updated within the community and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
And I'll be
100%.
following you on Instagram, that's for sure. So
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
we'll have another conversation in a
yeah,
year's time or
definitely.
so.
I've got a lot
But
of stuff
mate,
to get my head down with the software side now. That's what I'm going to spend my weekend doing, looking at Alan Bradley and Studio
yeah,
5000 with the software and stuff like that. So,
yeah, it's awesome,
yeah,
mate. I'm really, really pleased for you. Like, just it's like if you want something, as long as you're not being completely unrealistic, like, wanting to go and play in the NBA or something. Like, if you want
yeah,
something in life, you genuinely want it,
yeah,
like, you're gonna achieve it, you're gonna get there. It's just
mm,
like you mentioned earlier, getting a little bit uncomfortable, being okay with getting a no here and there. That's just part of it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
learning from it. Like you said,
yeah,
mate, if you learn from it, what questions are they asking? Right, now I can go and work on those questions for the next time. And
yeah,
like you're building that confidence and you just keep doing that, you keep doing that, you
mm,
be patient with time, you get to where you want to go. If what you
100%.
want, you're putting in the work to actually get that thing that you genuinely
Yeah.
want.
People are
there's
just
no excuse.
Yeah, people are just scared of the failure or the mistake or the whatever. And I've always like just thought like I've had a situation where there's an apprentice, I wired a motor wrong, and every engineer was stood there and they all seen it, and they all have a joke, do you know what I mean? But you get thick skin from it and you learn from it, and
Yeah,
I think if your mentality is like, oh well, I'll show you, or I'll do this, or that won't happen again. I'll learn from
yeah,
it. I'll never be in that situation again. Or if there's something that I've been stuck on in a breakdown, I'll just think, well, I didn't understand how this works, so I'll go home and I'll learn it. I'll never get caught short again on that. If you've got that
yeah,
mentality and you've got thick skin, actually, loads of people have done the same thing that you've done wrong. And
yeah.
do you know what I mean? It's nothing new. Everyone's done this mistake before, or everyone's done that, and unless you do it, you don't know about it. So you just got to change your mindset.
Well, it's how I think about, or at least in the early days, perhaps before I had as thick skin, but I was like I make a fuck up. I look
Yeah,
like an idiot. Like
yeah,
I'm embarrassed. People are laughing at me. I'm like, I
yeah,
don't want to ever feel that way
yeah,
again.
yeah.
So I'm
That's
gonna
exactly yeah,
go, yeah, I'm gonna go and find out this stuff so it doesn't happen again. But then like there's only so much you can find out. And then if you're continually developing and trying stuff, then it's gonna happen again. And it's gonna probably the same sort of situation. You're gonna be
yeah,
embarrassed, you feel silly. But then you go back and you learn this stuff and you do this enough time, that's where your thick skin comes in. You're just like, well, this
yeah,
is like I'm okay to put myself at risk of looking like an idiot. I don't
yeah,
care anymore because I
yeah,
know I'm getting continually better.
yeah,
Whereas a lot of people, they're not even willing to put themselves in that uncomfortable position where they look a
yeah.
little
That's
bit
good.
silly in the first place. And that's where that mediocrity, that's where most people stay.
Yeah,
And
and
it's,
they're the first ones as well, where they're scared of it. They're the first ones to point the finger because it makes
yeah,
them feel better. And it's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
but actually, if I go me versus you now, after I've made all the mistakes, or I've learned from that, or I've spent my own time, like I spent hours of my own time researching and getting better. Well, now me versus, say, if it was two apprentices, me versus you 4 years on at the end of apprenticeship, I'm night and day better than you. I can go and get a job anywhere I want, whereas you have to stay
yeah,
here because
yeah,
you've been too scared of making mistakes and all what if I look daft and stuff like that. So
yeah. And
that,
you can
that's my
pretend.
experience.
Mate, that's exactly the reality or the reality that I've experienced as well. And
Yeah,
like you can pretend that you're better, and you can let your ego protect you. But the actual reality is, just after you making that first fuck up and spending a bit of time, you're already one step ahead of these guys laughing at you.
yeah,
You go because you've put in the time, or you've got that emotional scar from feeling stupid
yeah,
that's driven you to find out what the answer is. You've just built another layer of understanding or gone deeper into a subject, which they
yeah,
haven't done. So you're immediately better than them. They might
yeah,
not realize
100%.
it, but
Yeah,
you know it. You
yeah,
should take, not you personally, but just one should take confidence in that. That's what I've
yeah.
learned at least.
I've had that now as well, where it's like I'm so many years in now, and I've had all them lessons and stuff. Like, it doesn't happen as often now because I'm obviously eventually you get to a point where you're very skilled or you know things not to do and stuff like that. So it doesn't happen as often now, but I've got from that and from being in an environment where it's like pressure, you've got people on your back sometimes, what because that can make you make mistakes sometimes, people
Yeah,
watching you when you're not
yeah,
used to it. Now, if I ever go to a breakdown job or even tackling this new job where it's all a new environment, maybe I'm a bit unsure on certain things because it's out of the ordinary. I'm not going in with any nerves or any pressure because I was used to being uncomfortable for so long with that pressure, but now I haven't got that fear. I'm not scared. You know what I mean? So your mind's clear. You're
yeah,
not going. When I first started, I can think back to an apprentice when you don't know stuff and you're unsure and whatever. The problem in your head can be so big, but as soon as you get better and better and better, and you've got experience, that problem goes from being so big to being it's this, or I know what it is before I've even walked to it. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
So
It's
it's
something
all,
usually stupid as well, but
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
when you're back then and you don't know how to, like, it's not a like experience obviously helps you get there quicker,
yeah, yeah,
but just having the understanding to break it down logically, because it's always a logical problem, but our emotions
yeah,
make it like an emotional problem.
yeah.
But if you know how to break something down, like it's a logical thing, it's a sequence like we talked about earlier. Like if you know that within yourself, it's just like, well, it's just a matter of time till I find out what the issue is.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah,
don't need
yeah,
to get
yeah,
stressed about it.
yeah,
Like
100%.
you can't. You might say to the customer, they might be like, oh, when are you going to get this machine back up and running? You don't obviously say it takes as long as it takes, but
Yeah,
it's like I will get it back up and running, or I will find out what the problem is.
yeah.
I'm not sure how long that's going to take because how long's a piece of string, but at least you're going to get there.
That's what I say to that because you end up with complete confidence in your abilities, and so I've gone to saying things like don't worry, we'll fix it." Like, do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Or
Yes.
like whatever it is, don't worry. Like, because I'm like completely confident that it'll either get fixed. I can think of something. If we've not got a part, I know what to do to maybe get around it temporarily. Um, or if it is a part, I can tell them this is your problem. Yeah, you might be down because you're waiting for this part, but they know what it is. But I have complete confidence now where I can say to them, "You don't worry, we will fix it. We'll deal with it." Like that's just what I
Yeah.
say to them. So that's it.
And like you probably say it just how you said that there, like you're that calm demeanor, like there's no emotion in it, and that just transfers over to the client
Yeah,
or your senior, your boss, who's probably getting shit from up above,
yeah,
and that
exactly.
just transfers
They're
onto
stressing
them.
because of their bosses above them. They're that's what their stress is. So I think if you can take that stress, like don't worry, we'll fix it. Whether you,
Yeah.
even sometimes if you can't, just say it anyway, because then they'll be more relaxed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Than
But you will though. You will get
yeah, yeah,
there.
100,
It's
yeah,
just
100%. Yeah,
it's just
there's
time,
nothing
isn't
now that
it?
100%. There's nothing now that I go to where it's like, oh, this. I think everything can be fixed. You know what I mean? Like, and even sometimes if you're unsure on something, technical support. You know what I mean? Get onto someone
Yeah.
that's an expert in this one thing maybe that you're struggling with, but you pinpointed it's this. I just need someone
Yeah.
who's an expert in that now.
But and that certainly comes in handy, I found, when you get more into like software side, electronics, like PCBs,
Yeah,
maybe networking stuff, but like what we talked about earlier, like the hardware stuff, like you can eliminate all the hardware. It's not an issue with the hardware, which leaves us programming, it's like a bug, it's like network communications, something like that. You can confidently say, look, well, there's no issues with the hardware. Like
yeah.
that's good. And now it's like, right, I need to escalate it to that next level, that first line, second line tech support.
Yeah. And you can find ways. I always try and prove stuff. Like sometimes you can prove it 100%, but then sometimes you can prove it to like maybe a certain point, if you get me. Like a dead basic example, like if I think switch is faulty or maybe a safety circuit, well, I can put a link on that switch that I think is the problem. And if it
Yeah,
resets, it's definitely that because I've linked it and
yeah,
now it's working. If I take it
yeah,
out, I've tested it, it's getting a bad reading. I don't have that link in, it doesn't reset. I've limited it to that one switch. That's
yeah,
it.
yeah,
So I've proved it 1,000,000%. Like it can't be anything other
yeah,
than that. Like,
yeah,
so if you can do that, I always do it. Like, especially if you ever call in someone like it's this is like a specialist piece of equipment. It's definitely that. Like, I'll try and prove everything I can up to that before I call in maybe a specialist to have a look at it. Depending, because I've worked at like in like food and stuff. You end up working on like things like sealing machines and packaging machines and labeling machines, and some of the stuff how it's built up or the settings. You have to just be a pro in the settings sometimes and stuff like that,
yeah,
which you can't know
yeah.
all that stuff. Like, um,
RTFM, mate. That's where
yeah,
the old
yeah,
manual
yeah,
comes in.
yeah, 100%.
No, mate. Well, yeah, like this has been awesome, man. Thank you for
Yeah,
taking the time on a Saturday as well.
no, yeah, fine.
And yeah, just keep me updated with how things go, and like don't be a stranger in the community.
Yeah,
And yeah, I'll be following you on Instagram. So
cheers.
yeah,
Nice shot.
good,
Yeah,
good stuff, mate. Like fair play to you. Yeah, you smashed it, mate. So yeah, keep on smashing it, and
yeah,
yeah, good things will happen.
yeah. Cheers. Thanks for that, Chris.
All right, Wes, take it easy, buddy.
Great. See you later.
Cheers, mate. Bye bye.